Welcome everybody. This is Rev Games with a tournament report. This one with Edison. As I had mentioned it at my local store, we do rotating formats. So really the two formats that I play only come on once every other month. So I basically have to wait 2 months for Edison and then 2 months for Goat. Wish it was more frequent, but that's what it do and how it be. And I'm just gonna go over uh, how the tournament went and some of the gameplays, any lessons learned. I guess I'll just spill the beans, but I didn't do too well. I lost 2 games, got a bye, and then won 1 game. So it was pretty tough. But I do my best to explain all the different matches here. Most of my local meta is actually pretty much just like straight up tier 1 stuff. Basically, everyone is on either Black Wings or Heroes or Frogs, which I think are a step above this deck. And there's one guy on Lightsworn. That's basically it. I don't think I saw anything else. And it's like either Hero Beat or Diva Hero or whatever it might be when I say heroes. So that's basically it. This is the deck. I've done a few deck profiles on this. I don't know whether or not this is the optimal build or not, especially the side. The one thing I will say is basically everyone that I played last night like didn't play back row like at all. So I played um, round 1 Lightsworn, round 2 Hero Beat, round 3 by, and round 4, which is the round I won, Diva Hero. And basically all of those were at least like very light on back row. So that kind of stinks. One of my biggest gripes with Edison is just like how it's too monster heavy and you can just use stuff from hand. Like I really don't like cards like Gores. Like I just think they're not good for the game. I don't think hand traps are good for the game unless there were some sort of counterbalancing measure so that you knew they were there or there was a way to interact with them. But a lot of the best decks just use hand traps, and that's unfortunately the reality of the format. I will say maybe the Hero Beat player played a decent amount of back row, but there were points in the game where there was just like no back row, and I was getting stuck with like just my back row removal, like Lila's, MSTs in game 1, and like Heavy Storm. So it was a little bit frustrating, but I will get into the deck. I'm not going to explain too much here. Um, and then each of the matchups. I will say that I haven't really been playing as much Edison as Goat. Uh, Edison, I do like the format, don't get me wrong. I'm just a lot more familiar with Goat, so when I play Goat, I just feel like I'm competent enough to have fun. And I still have fun with Edison, but it's kind of hard when there are just rulings and card interactions that you don't know. Edison's a far more complex format in terms of rulings, which is a bad thing. Objectively, like rulings complexity is bad for gameplay. Uh, it has a lot more deck diversity, which is a good thing, but it also makes it a lot more matchup dependent. And the term that a lot of good players use is bracket luck, which is frustrating. So as much as players like dump on Goat for having a more limited metagame, that probably is more conducive to competitive gameplay than something where you can kind of just use whatever and get sacked, and OTKs are a lot more prevalent. But I still plan on playing a lot of Edison. It just I do have some pretty big gripes with the format that I don't think are ever going to go away. And Goat has stuff like Trinity, which I really think are just objectively bad for the game and the format. But like there's just like a certain subset of cards in Edison that are just head and shoulders above everything else. And hand traps I think do more or less make the format like way worse than it otherwise could be. I mean, if you just and I just don't like that decks can play and not use back row at all and just rely on hand traps. I think that's a like a serious game design flaw. Like this game was designed to have, you can even read it in the old rule books, like 10 spells, 10 traps, and 20 monsters. even stuff like this, which plays like 23 monsters, or stuff that plays like more than that, and like a bunch of hand traps and no traps at all. Like I just cannot see how that could possibly be good for the game. On another note, before we get into things, I haven't played in advanced format in Yu-Gi-Oh since 2016, and I was sitting next to somebody that was playing advanced with their friend, and uh, what the fuck is going on with advanced? Like they literally, it was just a casual thing before the tournament started, but their turn literally took like about 10 minutes, and his opponent was just like, we were just having conversations like while like the guy was going off, and like I was just talking with his opponent. Like there was no interaction, like no one was playing anything, and this was turn one before the other player like even got a chance to draw. Like it was just, and then there were probably like 15 cards engraved, like a whole board summon. I mean I haven't played advanced format, but like that seems like the antithesis of fun gameplay to me. I would much rather play solitaire. I like Goat because there is a lot of interaction, and while that interaction might be I activate my trap card, or I set, or I have to grind out resources or stall for a few turns, um, I think that's a lot better than just watching your opponent like set up a board and then just saying have fun. So yeah, I don't ever see myself getting into advanced format. I just think the game has progressed to a point where power creep has basically ruined the game. Again, I have no idea how to play it, but I just cannot come up with a scenario where that's healthy. The at least Edison, yeah, I think it might be a little bit too combo heavy, but there's still a good bit of interaction with this format. There's actually a lot. I don't like how quickly you can just randomly die, and I think Konami messed up. Of course, they messed up. They don't know how to design a game, but like the extra deck monsters that were released, or the synchro monsters rather, in this era were like, what were you thinking? Like they're like, oh, we're gonna introduce a new mechanic, that being synchros, and then they just released like bonkers busted shit. It's like you couldn't have like just released some like good cards that are playable, and then like slowly have like stuff that's more powerful over time. Like I don't get what they were thinking. But um, really onto the first part of this, which is going to be the deck, and down below, just let me know what some of your thoughts are on this, because it's, I played Yu-Gi-Oh for a long time. Like I played consistently since day one up until, I don't know, whenever the whenever Dark Arm Dragon came out, because there was no way to play as a casual player at that point. Like people had like $1,200 decks and just stomped you, so I quit. And then came back around Edison time, like very casually. I had like a Blackwing deck or something, and then quit, and then came back for like a year, like 2015ish to 2016. So I've played a lot of different formats, and I've never been a competitive player. Like I don't really I'll offend people, but like I don't really think Yu-Gi-Oh is a game worth playing super competitively or taking seriously. It's just too poorly designed, but it's really fun. But there's just too much variance. It's too easy to cheat in real life, and it's too easy to shark. So I just don't think it's worth taking seriously. But I just don't like. Let me know what your sentiments are on some of the formats and how that compares to modern. Because just I do have an uninformed view of that because I haven't played it, but it just seems absolutely ridiculous. But this deck is just really Machinas mixed with a bunch of mill, mixed with the good card engine, which is Caius, Raiko, Hamster, more or less, and a side deck, which I have no clue what the fuck is going on. Honestly, I just like looked at a bunch of good side deck cards and slotted them in there. So round one was against Lightsworns, as I had mentioned. Lightsworns, or game one rather, we had a decent back and forth. He definitely got the upper hand very early, and I was able to claw my way back. I forced him into a corner where he basically had to stack his JD, which was his only card in hand, and I knew it was his only card in hand because I believe I was able to like force a resolve. No, 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 no. He got it back with Beckoning Light. That's why I knew it was in hand. and I basically forced him into a corner where he had to stack the JD, and he was forced to make was it Goyo now? Shit, I'm forgetting. Sorry, last night was a duckler, race cars, lasers, aeroplanes, a duckler, and I can't remember. I forced him into an awkward situation, and I think there could have been one or two other synchro plays he made, but so he had to stack his JD and then be forced to mill the JD at the end of the turn because he couldn't clear one of his light sworns. I think it was a Lumina, and that's that. And then I was uh, basically just had to kill the Lumina, and I could take care of his synchro, and he just had to do it basically not to lose the game. Uh, Mill his JD at the end of the turn, and then he I cleaned that up and I think made a fortress to apply pressure just because I was going to have to take several turns to just attack over stuff and then just start going for it. And um, he then top decked because I had to leave one light Lightsworn on board, a Celestia, and just basically that won him the game. He just blew up my board, uh, milled, and then I couldn't really come back because we were both very low on resources. And he had milled like a wolf or two. I think he was on 3 wolf or whatever. And um, yeah, so game two, I don't know if he bricked or not, but I just kind of did normal summon stuff and, banished stuff with DD Warrior Lady, resolved a few Raikos, and he just basically scooped. It just didn't seem like there was any interaction at all. Um, and then game three, I um basically just got just blown out. Like it's just light sworn stuff. He got a few wolves, and he was just up on cards, and there really wasn't anything I could do. So that's that. That's just light sworn. You win a few, you lose a few, and like I feel like a common theme with last night was people are kind of like guilty about the deck they play. Like, and I did get turn one dust shooted too, which sucked. Um, but like people are in game three, but people are guilty about like the deck they play. Like when they mill a wolf, they're like, oh, I guess I get wolf or like something like that. Or somebody, which I'll talk about in round two, like resolved a royal oppression on me, and they're like, yeah, sorry about that. And I was like, I mean, you don't have to be sorry. Like that's part of the game. Yeah, royal oppression probably should not be, you know, at two, but it is, and yeah, just have to play with that in mind. Play the hand you're dealt, and yeah, so we lost. Round two was against Hero Beat. Um, game one, we it's just a regular hand, and we got 2 mills off. I think one was a Lila, one was a Raiko, and our mills were 3 gear frame and 2 force, or I think it might have been 2 force, 2 gear frame, something along those lines. And then after that, and whatever other 2 cards, I can't remember what they were. And then to put the icing on the cake, and I think it might have been a pot of avarice too. And then to put the icing on the cake after that, we drew Plague. And I was like, are you kidding me? And yeah, it was just a really, really tough game. And it was one of those games where like I couldn't do anything. And I just kept on drawing. And surprisingly enough, like I don't think he had hero access either because he like just basically had the beaters. And I guess he wasn't drawing them, but we were just so far behind that we just eventually lost the game once he summoned an alias and just went for our face. Game two, we again were in a situation where it was draw pass for like 6 turns, and I just couldn't do anything. Um, I think I had like a fortress live in my hand, but it's like I'm not just randomly summoning a fortress for no reason. While he has full back row, he's gonna banish it. Like there's just no reason to do that. And we just straight up lost the game. It wasn't really that close. Like I was surprised how far down on cards we were, just because you'd think like a lot of these cards can like plus automatically outside of like Fortress, which is a neg 1. But yeah, we just kind of got blown out there. Like after they resolve several Hero Blasts or Gemini Sparks or a Stratos here or there, or maybe resolve an Ocean, like yeah, you're just kind of screwed. So we there's no way we could really win that game. And it again kind of just felt like his deck was like a tier above ours. Yeah, we have Bionic Stratos here, which is really good, but like their spell and trap lineup is just so much better. Like Gemini Spark and Hero Blast, and I think they even played Skyscraper and stuff like that. Like it's just way better than any of this. Um, so that's what it is. And that was the game that they resolved Royal Oppression game two. I think I fortressed and they were just like Royal Oppression no. And at that point, like I think I had a Cyber Dragon in hand too, and it's just inevitable from there that we're gonna lose. Um, round three was the bye, and round four I played against Diva Hero, and this was more fun because I felt like we were actually kind of playing Yu-Gi-Oh a little bit. Like the other like it's not a knock against Light Sworns, but it kind of is just like a a high roll deck where you don't really feel like a lot of the outcomes of the game are in your control or your opponent's control. It's like okay, yeah, good job, you got like Judgment Dragon live turn two, or you got like two milled wolves in a game. Like that's just going to be very difficult to come back from. Or oh yeah, you top decked a Celestia, whatever, or you hit your Gardna and you had like the ability to block an attack. Like they had milled a plague and that allowed them to like get back in the game. It's not really a game. Um, round two, like it was a game. Like there was back and forth, but it kind of just felt like we were playing a little bit different of a game. Um, I think this is like solidly a tier two deck, but playing against something that's like either high tier one or S tier, like Eurobeat, definitely like you see why it's good. Like you can like kind of get back in the game and make a push, and then it's just like oh hand trap honest. It's like nah, like I can't attack over any of your stuff. So it's really tough. I just don't like hand traps. I think if a deck like this had like a machine hand trap, it'd be of course very good. Doesn't exist, and just not having to commit anything to board, and then having honest, which for whatever reason, they gave a fat ass butt of 19, and you can bounce it back to your hand and poke. It's like it just like shows to like goes to show like what were they thinking when they designed this card? Not only does it support light, like this could have easily been like okay, like you can design this card and like if it's a wind monster that battles or like in earth, but like all the good cards are like light or dark and all the support is for lights or darks. It's like why would this effect not destroy dark monsters? Like why? I just don't. I really don't get how they designed this game so poorly. But um, so yeah, honest is a thing. We lost that, and then round four, we did have some good back and forth. Had to make choices and reads on like whether it was a face down Snowman Eater, like force them to pop their own stuff so that they wouldn't target Machina Fortress. Was able to, set up a turn where I was able to banish a Treeborn Frog with Caius. So it actually felt like there was skill involved on both ends, which I'm really happy for because the first two games, like, it just felt very draw dependent and very like matchup dependent, and it wasn't particularly engaging. This was so we won round one or game one, round four, kind of how we were supposed to, which is we just kind of outgrinded him with cheeky plus ones like this and like Hamster Ryko stuff and like making correct calls on stuff like Snowman Eater. Um, round two, or sorry, round four, game two against the Diva Hero, like he set one past or set face down monster, and we summon Machina Fortress, and that's because I made a read that it was Snowman Eater, and it was. So we got to pick the Cyber Dragon out of his hand, and we had a lot of back and forth. It was a really good game, and he was up a lot on life points. And I knew he had a Miracle Fusion in hand just because I was able to see his hand with Fortress. And I knew he had a Dark Arm Dragon in hand because I was forced to bounce it earlier in the game not to lose. And then he double crows both of my fortresses and sets up 3 Darks Engrave, and I had a DD Crow in hand, but I forgot that he had Dark Arm Dragon, so he summons it. And I have a face up Ryko and a back row, and he pops the back row, and um, uh, I had a face up Ryko. And basically, the way the math worked out was if he popped the Raikou, he could have put me to 800. If he just attacked the Raikou, he put me to 1000, and he put me to 1000. And he even said afterwards, he was like, "Yeah, I was thinking about like playing around brain control, but I just said screw it. Like, there's probably not a chance that he has it." And lo and behold, I top decked brain control when I had 1000 life points, so the Raikou 200 saved me. And then I brain controlled the Dark Armed and summoned a Fortress and just attacked for game when he had no cards left. So that was definitely quite lucky. And he's one of the nicer guys at our locals, and he was like, "Ah, fuck," and like we just kind of went back and forth on like the cheese and the sack. So yeah, it was a sack, and I did misplay as well, and kind of got rewarded for the misplay by just not using my crow when I could have crowed, so we didn't have 3 darks in grave. So yeah, that was a misplay. See, the hard part about real life also is like I don't take notes, and I don't think you can take notes. Um, so I just totally forgot he had Dark Armed. But like when I play on Dueling Book and stuff, like I can take notes. It's like, oh, remember Dark Armed is in his hand or something like that. But that's a whole nother skill on just keeping that in the back of your mind in real life. But that's really the tournament report. I do, with Edison, really only have a few decks I can build currently. So one of them is this. I could make like a Gadget Machina variant, maybe like a Gear Town Machina variant, or a few different Blackwing variants, just because I do have a lot of those leftover cards, luckily. And yeah, I don't know what I'm going to continue playing with Edison. I just feel like it might be a little bit more fun sometimes if I'm playing something that's equally as broken, like Blackwings, and just being like, okay, like I won the game because I opened, double whirlwind or just a whirlwind in and of itself, or like Vayu Turbo, just doing cheesy stuff. But I'm not sure how I feel about this deck, just because I don't really like decks that rely on milling. I just like when I win or lose, I kind of want that responsibility, at least on my end, to be based on how I played my cards. It seems like with mill engine decks, a lot of that is out of your control, and I just don't really like that at all. Like I could never see myself playing like dragons or something like that, just because it's like, did you open Future Fusion? Like, yeah, you win. Um, and same with like Light Sworns. I just don't think I could play a deck like that. So I experimented with a mill deck. We'll see. I'm probably gonna play this on ladder every so often, but it's just like, and also like the mills you get. Like, what's the best case scenario of a mill? It's like these and this, and then you set up a Pot of Avarice, which requires you to make it to the mid to late game in the first place. So yeah, I'm just not sure how I feel about this. Um, I'd much rather have a deck that's a little bit more proactive than reactive, not super mill dependent, and maybe that's Blackwings. But Blackwings in and of itself kind of have some issues just because, like in GOAT format, I kind of got bored with Chaos Turbo just because it did seem a little bit too easy to like just win games against decks that are just straight up worse than yours. I feel like something similar is going to be the case with Blackwings if I ever get good with it. So that's the tournament report. It was not good, but that's part about learning a format. That's part of learning a format. So it's always helpful if you like this or leave a comment, whether or not it's about the deck or the format of itself, or maybe what some of your complaints are with it, or what you like about it if you want to stay positive. But thanks for tuning in and have a good one.